A very good day to our lovely grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. Remember that my name is Mampani Kekana. Remember that this lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with the Siboney Discovery Center. Boys and girls, welcome to our new time slot, 2:30. I hope you had a wonderful recess and then you are ready for the second term, which is the shortest term. Soon you'll be writing your examination. So in today's lesson, we're going to do an introduction to measurement in grade 12. Introduction to measurement in grade 12, where we're going to focus on conversions and time. Now, boys and girls, this part of measurement, it's what I call a foundation of paper 2. It is actually a foundation of paper 2, or this is a pillar for paper 2. You need to master this subtopic in order for you to do very well in paper 2. Conversions, very, very, very important. It's actually the foundation of all the topics, all the sections in paper 2. For you to do very well in paper 2, you must be able to do conversions. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to focus on the following, or by the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following. We know that some of these sections, you actually did them in grade 10 and 11, but it's very, very important that we remind you about what you should know by the end of this lesson. Now, at the end of this lesson, learners should be able to convert units from memory to metric system. Okay, convert units of measurement from memory for the metric system. Remember, when we talk about metric system, we are referring to all those local units like centimeters, millimeters, kilometers, kilogram, grams, kiloliters, liters, milliliters, and so on. Those are the metric units. Now, when we say convert units of measurement from memory, it means the examiner in some cases might not give you a conversion factor. Let's say, for instance, they say convert from 20 centimeters to millimeters. You must know that if I have to convert from centimeters to millimeters, I must multiply by 10. The examiner might not give you that conversion factor, so you need to know it. If they say convert from a kilogram to gram, you must know that from a kilogram to a gram, I must multiply by 1000. The examiner might not give you that conversion factor. That is why they say measurement from memory. That is what you need to know. And then again, convert units of measurement from memory for time. Memory for time. Like, for instance, if they have to ask you to convert from hours to minutes, you need to know that in order to convert from hours to minutes, we must multiply by 60. In order to convert from minutes to seconds, we must multiply by 60. In order to convert from a day to hours, 1 day is equals to 24 hours. In order to convert from a week to days, you must know that a week has got 7 days. In order to convert from, let's say, for instance, a year to days, you must know that a year consists of 365 days. Hence, we say memory for time. So it's something that you need to know. The examiner might not necessarily tell you that 1 day is equals to 24 hours, but that is something that you need to know. Or 1 week is equals to 7 days is something that you need to know. Then the next one is convert units of measurements using conversion factors. Okay, using conversion factors for cooking conversions. So in this case, it's not something that you need to know. Maybe the examiner will tell you that 1 cup is equals to 250 milliliters, or 1 spoon is equals to 5 milliliters. So you must be able to use that conversion factor. And then again, we've got convert units of measurement using conversion factors table between different systems, including metric to imperial. So remember, the first one we spoke about metric, but this one is metric to imperial. So it means you don't need to memorize that conversion factor. The examiner will give it to you. Like for instance, if you have to convert from inches to centimeters, the examiner will give you the conversion factor. The examiner will say 1 inch is equals to 2,54 centimeters. Or for instance, if you have to convert from kilometers to miles, the examiner will give you the conversion factor and say 1 mile is equals to 1,6 kilometers. So those ones, you don't need to memorize them. That is why we say conversion factors between different systems, including metric to imperial. And then again, convert units of measurements using conversion factor or tables between different systems, including solid to liquid. Okay, they might say 1 milliliter of water is equals to 1 gram. Okay, or 1 milliliter of water weighs 1 gram. So that is the solid to liquid. Then we've got convert temperature values from degree Celsius to degree Fahrenheit. Okay, so you must be able to use the formula of converting between degree Celsius and degree Fahrenheit. Again, you don't need to memorize the formulae, or you don't need to memorize the formula for converting between degree Celsius and degree Fahrenheit. And then you must be able to calculate speed, distance, and time. Okay, you must be able to calculate speed, distance, and time. In other words, if you are given an information and they say calculate speed, you must know which formula to use. Which formula must you use to calculate speed? If you are given an information and they say calculate distance, you must know which formula must be used. Obviously, if you've got these three unknowns, in order to calculate one of them, the other two must be given, or somehow the other two must be given. If they have to ask you to calculate the speed, it means distance and time will be given. If they have to ask you to calculate distance, then speed and time will have to be given. Okay, so that is the objectives or what you should know by the end of today's lesson. You might know some of this already, but this was just to refresh your memory in terms of what you should know up to so far. Right, then again, we've got conversion between metric units of length or distance. Okay, so you must be able to convert metric units of length or distance, e.g. centimeters, millimeters, meters, and kilometers. Convert between metric units of mass or weight. You must be able to convert between milligram and grams, or between grams and kilograms. And then we've got conversion between metric units of capacity, e.g. you must be able to convert between milliliters and liters, or between liters and kiloliters. Then we've got again conversion between imperial units and metric of mass or weight. In weight, we're talking about an ounce. You must be able to convert between an ounce and grams, or pound and kilogram. But remember, in this case, the conversion factors will be given. And then again, you must be able to convert between imperial units and metric units of length or distance, like I indicated below, inch to centimeters, or miles to kilometers. And then again, of course, conversion of temperature values from degree Celsius to degree Fahrenheit. Okay, now I have spoken about what you should know up to so far, or what you should know by the end of this lesson. Okay, but just to test your knowledge, we have to check what you know up to so far in terms of this subtopic, or in terms of this section. So by so doing, we're going to look at the following questions for our baseline assessment. Okay, now remember, baseline assessment, it's very important, or it's actually there to check what you know and what you don't know. Okay, so in other words, it's just to determine the content gap, what you know and what you don't know. So with regard to baseline assessment, we're going to look at the following questions. You'll have to think about the answers before I give you the answers. So the first one is, the best unit to measure the length of a textbook is. Now you have to choose between the three. Is it a millimeter? Is it a meter? Or is it a kilometer? The best unit to measure the length of a textbook. it's a millimeter, meter, or a kilometer. Now think about it. Which unit will be the best to be used in order to measure the length of a textbook? Okay, now we all know that a meter is too long, it's too big to measure a textbook. The same thing with a kilometer. A kilometer is used to measure a longer distance, but meters are used to measure the longer length. Like for instance, the length of your classroom, we have to use meters. But millimeters, it's actually suitable to measure the length of a textbook. So in this case, the best unit to measure the length of a textbook is millimeters. Okay, that is number one. Then for number two, the following is an example of imperial unit. So it means you need to know what we mean by imperial. When we say imperial unit, what are we referring to? The following is an example of imperial unit. Is it a kilogram? Is it a liter? Or is it inches? Think about it. The following is an example of imperial unit. Is it a kilogram? Is it a liter? Or is it inches? Okay, what do you know about imperial unit? Okay, now we all know that imperial unit, these are international units. These are the units that mostly used in other countries. So in this case, of course, in South Africa, we are using kilogram, we are using liters, and then of course, inches will be, or inches, it's an example of imperial unit. Inches is an example of imperial unit. Okay, the next question. The temperature in South Africa is measured at. Come on, boys and girls, I know that most of you are checking the temperatures every day, or you are checking weather forecast every day in order to prepare yourself for a school day. So the temperatures, wherever you see the temperatures, you should know that whenever you see this unit, it means it's a temperature. But in South Africa, which temperatures or which unit are we using to measure a temperature? So the temperature in South Africa is measured in, then in this case, we've got the first one. We know that that one is a degree Fahrenheit. And then we've got the next one, it's a degree Celsius. And then is it both degree Fahrenheit and degree Celsius? In South Africa, are we using degree Fahrenheit? Are we using degree Celsius? Or are we using both degree Fahrenheit and degree Celsius? Of course, in South Africa, the correct answer will be degree Celsius. In South Africa, we are using degree Celsius to measure temperatures. Then number 4 is, if 1 cup of water is 250 milliliters, determine the number of cups for 750 milliliters. So obviously in this case, you have to do some calculations. Some of you can actually do the answer without even do the calculations. But if 1 cup of water is 250 milliliters, determine the number of cups for 750 milliliters. Is the answer 3? Is the answer 7,5? Is the answer 4? Okay, when you do your calculations there, what do you get? For 250 milliliters is 1 cup, and then determine the number of cups for 750 milliliters. So in this case, if you take your calculator, you're going to say, right, for number of cups, in this case, you just say 750 milliliters divided by 250 milliliters. Okay, then if you say 750 divided by 250, you get 3. So it means in this case, the correct answer is 3. Okay, the answer is 3. The number of cups for 750 milliliters is 3. Okay, then the next question is Mike, question 5. Mike takes 25 minutes from his home to school. Determine the duration in hours. So in this case, we are told that Mike takes 25 minutes from his home to school. Determine the duration in hours. In other words, in this case, we need to convert from minutes to hours. So you should know how we convert from minutes to hours. How do we convert from minutes to hours? We have to divide by 60. So it means in this case, if you take 25 minutes you divide it by 60, then now we're converting it to hours. 25 divided by 60, if you take your calculator, is 25 divided by 60. I'm getting 0.4166 and so on and so on. This is the answer that I'm getting on the calculators. Is it one of these answers? Obviously, it's not 2.5. It's not 0.25, but is it 0.42? Yes, it is 0.42 when it's rounded off to 2 decimal places. So if we take this and then we round it off to 2 decimal places, it means this will be our correct answer. So these are not correct. So 2.5 is not correct, 0.25 is not correct, but 0.42 is the correct answer when it's rounded off to 2 decimal places. Okay, then the next question, number 6, still under baseline. We are checking what you know and what you don't know. The first period at the school starts at 8:15 a.m. So it's 8:15 in the morning and ends at 9 o'clock a.m. in the very same morning. Determine the duration of the first period. How long is the first period? If it starts at 8:15 and it ends up at 9 o'clock. So we have to calculate the time difference there. We take 0, 9, and then we subtract 0, 8, 15. Okay. So some of us, we can just do it mentally, but I know even at school level, some of you can do it by using a calculator. If I use it mentally, I have to subtract. In this case, I can't subtract 15 from the zeros, so I'll take 1 there, so I'm going to be left with 8. But that one, when I take it under the minutes, it becomes 60. Okay, so that I can subtract. Then I say 60 minus 15. So if it's 60 minus 15, then on your calculator you get 45. So this is 45. And then of course, in this case, it's 8 minus 8 is 0, 0. So it doesn't mean the duration is 1:45 in the morning, but it simply means 45 minutes. The duration of the period is 45 minutes. From 8:15 to 9 o'clock, yes, some of you can do it without the use of a calculator, but it's also very important to know the method of calculating these type of questions. Okay, so the answer in this case, obviously, is not 30 minutes, but it's 45 minutes. So 30 minutes is not correct, and then 1 hour is also not correct. Okay, so that was question number 6. Right, so those were the questions of the baseline. So we just had to quickly go through those questions to see what you know and what you don't know, and then understand even the educators at school level are actually doing the baseline with learners, okay, to see what they know, especially about what they are going to learn in term 2. So from this one, you can see if you actually know a lot about convergence or you don't know a lot. Okay, so if from these questions you could not get some of them correct, so it simply means you'll have to do a lot of revision in order for you to be to be knowledgeable in this section. Okay, now it's very, very important that also at the beginning of every section or at the beginning of every subtopic, all the terminologies, all the concepts, all the words that we are going to work with or we are going to work with, you need to understand them. Okay, you cannot be working with certain terminologies, or you cannot go working with certain concepts. You cannot be working with certain words, but you don't know how to explain them. Because the moment you can't explain them, it means you would not be able to answer most of the questions under this section. Yes, at the beginning we said we are going to work with measurement. But what do we mean by measurement? What is measurement? Okay, in simple terms, measurement is the size, the length, or the amount of something as established by measuring. Okay, the size, the length, or the amount of something as established by measuring. It's very important. Yes, you can say we are doing measurement in Mathlead, but when they ask you for explanation, you can't explain. So it's very important for you to know how to explain that. And then, of course, we also said we are doing conversion. What are we doing when we say we are doing conversion? What do we mean by conversion? Conversion simply means a change from one system or unit to another. If you want to change from one unit to another, if you change from a centimeter to a millimeter, if you change from inches to centimeters, you are doing conversion. Okay, so in this case, we say we are changing from one system. When we say we are changing from one system to another, we might mean we are changing from imperial unit to metric unit, or we are changing from metric unit to imperial unit. When we say we are changing from one unit to another, it might mean we are changing from a gram to a kilogram, or we are changing from a mile to a kilometer. By so doing, we are doing conversion. And what do we mean by a conversion factor? Conversion factor is the value used to change quantities. The value used to change quantities from one measuring system to another. From one measuring system to another. If I say one meter, it's equals to 100 centimeters. Okay, it means 100 meters is my conversion factor. Sorry, if I say 1 meter to 100 centimeter, it means 100 is my conversion factor. Because in this case, I have to know what must I do with 100. Am I going to multiply by 100 or am I going to divide by 100? In this case, if it's 1 meter, it's equals to 100 centimeters. 100 is my conversion factor. It means if I have to convert from meters to centimeters, I'm going to multiply by 100. But if I convert from centimeters to meters, I'm going to divide by 100. So therefore, 100 is my conversion factor. If I say 1 kilogram, it's equals to 1,000 grams. Then 1,000 is the conversion factor. So I need to know what am I going to do with the 1,000. If I convert from a kilogram to a gram, I multiply by 1,000. If I convert from gram to a kilogram, I divide by 1,000. So therefore, 1,000 is a conversion factor. It is just the same as 1 inch. If you are given 1 inch, it's equals to 2,54 centimeters. If 1 inch is equals to 2,54 centimeters, it means if I have to convert between inches and meters, between inches and centimeters, it simply means 2,54 is my conversion factor. I just need to know what am I going to do with the 2,54. If I'm converting from inches to centimeters, I multiply by 2,54. If I have to convert from centimeters to inches, I divide it by 2,54. So therefore, in this case, the 2,54 is my conversion factor. Okay, and then of course we've got metric system and imperial system. Okay, and then as I indicated before, the metric system, this is a system that is used in other countries for conversion. Okay, while imperial unit or imperial system is the unit that is used mostly in South Africa for conversion. Right, then, sorry, I said metric system. The metric system is the one that is used locally, that is in South Africa, and then imperial unit is the one that is used in other countries. And then we've got temperature. Of course, we are working with conversion of temperatures. We need to know what we mean by a temperature is the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. Okay, the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. Okay, then again, with regard to metric system, you must be able to convert the following. In Mathlead, especially in grade 12, when we convert the metric system, our focus will mostly be on these units. We've got a kilometer to a meter. You must know that if I convert from a kilometer to a meter, I must multiply by 1,000. Okay, and then if I have to convert from a meter to a centimeter, I must multiply by multiply by 100. Okay, and then if I convert from a centimeter to a millimeter, I must multiply by 10. So from a kilometer to a meter, you multiply by 1000. From a meter to a centimeter, you multiply by 100. And from a centimeter to a millimeter, you multiply by 10. If you have to convert from a kilometer to a centimeter, from kilometer to a centimeter, it means you're going to have 1 and 5 zeros. 1 and 5 zeros. If you look at this one, it's 1 and 3 zeros, 1 and 2 zeros. So from kilometer to a centimeter, it's going to be 1 and 5 zeros, which is 100,000. Then, of course, if you have to convert from a kilometer to a millimeter, we're now going to look at this. It's 1. This one is three zeros, this one is 2 zeros, and there's 1 0. So it means you're going to multiply by a million. Then other way around, that is where you divide. If now you want to convert from a meter to a centimeter, we say you multiply by 100. But what about converting from a meter to a millimeter? You are now going to multiply by 1 and 3 zeros. So it means you're going to multiply by 1000. From a meter to a millimeter, you multiply by 1000, and then the opposite is divide by 1000. The same thing with mass or grams. Okay, actually mass in grams. If you want to convert from kilogram to grams, we all know that you have to multiply by 1000. Okay, and then from a gram to a milligram, you multiply by 1000 as well. So from a kilogram to a gram, we multiply by 1000, and from a gram to a kilogram, we divide by 1000, and then from a gram to a milligram, we multiply by 1000. Other way around, we divide by 1000. Then again, with regard to volume in liters, if we want to convert from kiloliters to liters, we multiply by 1000. Okay, and from liters to milliliters, we also multiply by 1000. So this one, we multiply by 1000. Then from milliliters to liters, we divide by 1000. This is what you need to know by heart. Okay, this is what you need to know. You might be lucky if the examiner will give it to you, but it's very, very important that you know all these conversions. Okay, I don't know which method you are using at your school level for you to remember how to convert between the units. Okay, but I know that the most common one is this one of King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Okay, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So this is the most common one. You might have the easier one at school level, but if you find it very easy, you're also welcome to use it. But I'm not going to spend time on this one. Okay, but you just have to find a way of knowing how to convert between any units. Okay, between any units, in this case between kilometer and centimeter, between kiloliters and milliliters, and so on and so on. So this is the most common one, but I know that at school level you might be using a different method. Okay, and then again, this one the examiner might give it to you, but for your knowledge, we know that water is measured in liters, or liquid is measured in liters. So bulk of liquid, we say if you've got bulk of liquid, I know that, for instance, if we are talking about the amount of water that are being used in a house, the municipality will actually measure the amount of water used in a household in kiloliters. Okay, they might say in your house, in a month of March, you have used 40 kiloliters. Okay, but what does that 40 kiloliters mean? It means you actually used 40,000 liters, because 1 kiloliter is the same as 1,000 liters. Okay, and then we also have a bulk of water. Let's say, for instance, the municipality of city of Johannesburg. Okay, it actually receives water from Rand Water. The Rand Water must be able to measure the amount of water that is being used by the city of Johannesburg or the city of Tshwane, for instance. So how do they measure the amount of water? Because it's a lot of water in liters. they actually use the word megaliters. So megaliters will be the unit that is being used by the water service provider, okay? The water service provider to check the amount of water that are being used by the municipality. Okay, so in that case, they are going to use megaliters. Now, megaliters simply means if it's 1 megaliter, is the same as 1 million liters. So if the municipality is going to use 20 megaliters, it will mean it is actually 20 million liters. Okay, and then bulk of mass or weight. Okay, for instance, imagine if we have to measure the weight of a truck. Okay, we say ton. Okay, so this one it's a 5 ton. So if it's 1 ton, it simply means it's 1,000 kilogram. 1 ton, it's equals to 1,000 kilograms. If it's 2 ton, it's 2,000 kilograms. If it's 3 ton, then it means it's 3,000 kilograms. You just need to know this. But this one's, I'm sure the examiner might give it to you. Okay, so it's very important to know that as well. And then the conversion with regard to time, we also spoke about it. These ones, you need to know them. You need to know that 1 minute is equals to 60 seconds. For in case they have to ask you to convert from seconds to minutes, you must know how to convert that. And we also have 1 hour is equals to 60 minutes. If you have to convert between hours and minutes, 1 day it's equals to 24 hours. If you have to convert from the number of days to the number of hours, you're going to multiply by 24. But if you are given a lot of hours, many hours, and then they ask you to convert it to the number of days, then you must know that you must divide by 24 hours. And then 1 week, a normal week, it's 7 days. And then 1 month, a normal month is about 4 weeks. It might not be exactly 4 weeks, but we estimate it to be 4 weeks. 1 year, it's equals to 365 days if it's a normal year, and then 1 leap year is 366 days. But in this case, the examiner might specify if it's a leap year or it's just a normal year. And we've got a decade. You must know that a decade means 10 years, and then a century means 100 years. So if they say we've got, it's about 2 centuries ago, then that means it's 200 years ago. If it's a century ago, it means it's 100 years ago. If it's 1 decade ago, then it will mean about 10 years ago. Okay, still with the number of years, we said 1 year it's equals to 365 days, which is also estimated to be about 52 weeks. So 365 days, it's almost 52 weeks, which is about a year. Okay, then again, with regard to speed, distance, and time, okay, so remember the method of the triangle or the DSTV method. Okay, you need to know that because the examiner might trick you. The examiner might give you a formula like this one. They say distance is equals to speed multiplied by time, but they actually want you to calculate time. So it means if the formula is distance equals to speed multiplied by time, and they say calculate time, it means you'll have to change the formula. Okay, but if you know your DSTV method or the triangle method, you'll know that, okay, if this is speed, and then it means distance must be on top and time must be at the bottom. So it's going to be distance over time. And then if you have to calculate time, it is going to be distance over speed. If you have to calculate distance, it is going to be speed multiplied by time. Like you see in the other triangles, they say if now you have to calculate time, then it means the distance must be on top and then the speed must be at the bottom. If you have to calculate speed, the distance must be on top and the time must be at the bottom. Just familiarize yourself with this triangle for you not to get confused in the examination, especially if the examiner would give you the formula that you are not going to use. The examiner will give you the formula in this format, will say time is equal to distance of time, distance over time, but they say calculate distance. So it means you'll have to change that formula. You must know how to change it. Okay, then again, conversion with regard to the temperature formula, you don't necessarily have to memorize the formula, but you need to know how to substitute. Okay, if you have to convert from degrees Celsius to degree Fahrenheit. So it means this is the formula that you are going to use. If you have to convert from degree Fahrenheit to degree Celsius, this is the formula that you are going to use. But in most cases, we expect the examiner to give you this formula. Okay, we expect the examiner to give you this formula, but because you are using them a lot of time in the classroom, it is also possible that even if the examiner doesn't give it to you, you'll be able to remember which one is which. Okay, I think we did our introduction, and then we have explained all the concepts, all the expectations, everything that you need to know with regard to the section of conversion. Okay, so you now have the knowledge of the section, you know what is expected of you, and so on and so on. So in this case, we are now going to look at the activities that are based on the introduction, or based on all the concepts that we have been discussing up to so far. So these are the questions that were taken from various question papers. Okay, this one is activity 1. Activity 1 says a group of grade 10 learners at Oviwe High School are planning to bake muffins to sell on the market day at their school. Use the information alongside to answer the following questions. 1.1. Boys and girls, you'll see how easy are these questions. Now you just have to imagine yourself if you were writing this specific examination. Okay, if you were writing this as your examination, were you going to pass it? So this one is 1.1. Determine how much white sugar in milliliters will be used. Determine how much white sugar in milliliters will be used. Now we have to check with regard to our ingredients. We can see our ingredients. The first one is not sugar. The second one, the third one, the fourth one is this one. It's about 3/4, 3/4. 3/4 cup white sugar. Okay, determine how much white sugar in milliliters will be used, but they don't want the amount of white sugar in cups. They want it in milliliters. So now we have to check from the given information. You can see that right at the bottom there where they say conversion table. Remember when we did the introduction, we said they might give you a table. It says 1 cup is equals to 250 milliliters. So if 1 cup is equals to 250 milliliters, now we want to know about 3/4. 3/4 is equals to how much? So then in this case, you can see that we take 3/4, we multiply by 3/4 multiplied by 250. So you can just say n for the number of cups. So n for the number of cups, and then you cross multiply. When we cross multiply, then we're going to get the number of cups. It's equals to 3/4 multiplied by 250 milliliters. Then you take your calculator, you say 3 divided by 4, and then multiply by 250. The answer must be 187.5. So it's 187.5 milliliters. Okay, for some of you who would like to take a shortcut, you just take 3/4, you multiply by 250, and you get 187.5 milliliters. The examiner didn't say anything about rounding off. If it's 187.5, we write it as 187.5. It is always safer to write it in decimal form. Okay, if you round it off, you can round it off afterwards. But in this case, the examiner was just looking for the amount in milliliters. That is number 1.1. Then for number 1.2, still in the very same information, calculate the number of cups of vegetable oil that they will use to make 2 dozen of muffins. Okay, 2 dozen of muffins. Now the question is, if we say 2 dozen of muffins, how many muffins is that? Okay, 2 dozen of muffins, how many muffins is there? So we all know that a dozen is a dozen means 12. Okay, if we say a dozen of X, we are referring to 12X. Okay, if we say a dozen of drinks, okay, we are referring to 12 drinks. Okay, so in this case, if we say dozen, we are referring to 10. But if we read the information, it says ingredients used to make 12 muffins. Okay, so it means all these ingredients that are indicated here are enough to make 12 muffins. All ingredients that are indicated here are actually enough to make 12 muffins. Now, in this case, they want to know, what about 2 dozen? Now, 2 dozen means 12 times 2, which is 24. Now, we want to change from 12 to 24. Okay, some of you will see that from 12 to 24, we just multiply by 2. We just take whatever ingredient we multiplied by 2. So in this case, they say calculate the number of cups of vegetable oil that they will use to make 2 dozen. Okay, vegetable oil, we've got a quarter of a cup. So if we've got a quarter of a cup, if a quarter of a cup is enough for 12 muffins, okay, what is the number, what number of cups will be needed for 24 muffins? Then we say 1/4 cups we multiplied by 2. Then this will give us 2/4 cups, and then we know that this is equals to 1/2 cups. So it's actually half of a cup. So in this case, when we do the calculations, in the end, our answer must be half of a cup. Whatever method that you're going to use, whether you're going to use the cross multiplication, or you can just use the inspection method, or you just use the multiplication method, and then this is equals to half of a cup. Then for this one, they say, if they start making muffins at 10:18, if they start making muffins at 10:18, when will they finish baking the first 12 muffins? The information that is indicated here, the ingredients that are indicated here are for making 12 muffins. Okay, they have indicated everything. They have indicated preparation time, so it means it's 10 minutes, and baking time is 25 minutes. So they are going to take the total time, in this case, will be 10 minutes plus 25 minutes. So they are going to take 35 minutes. Okay, so they are going to take 35 minutes. Now, from this one, we say, if they're starting from 10:18, so from 10:18, then now we add 35. Okay, from 10:18, we add 35. Then from this one, if we say 8 plus 5, then we get 13. Okay, then we carry 1, and then we say 1 plus 3, then it's 4, then we get 5, and then it's going to be 10:53. Okay, so this one was 8 plus 3. Okay, 8 plus 3 is 13, and then we carry the 1, then we say 1 plus 3 is supposed to give us 4, and then we say plus that 1. Okay, then we say 10 plus, we get 10 plus 0, obviously that is going to be 10. Then in this case is 10:53. So if they start making the muffins at 10:18, they will finish at 10:15. Okay, they will finish at 10:15, whatever method, but in the end, the answer must be 7 minutes before 11. So that is 10:53. Okay, still on the very same question, convert 400 degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. The other thing that's important in this case, we have to be sure that the formula that is given is correct. Convert 400 degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. So in this case, we just need to do the substitution. Substitution, then it's equals to, in brackets, we've got 400 minus 32, and then we divide it by 1,8. Okay, it's always safer. Remember, with regard to BODMAS, you simplify what is inside the brackets. If you say 400 minus 32, I'm getting 368 then we still have to divide by 1,8. Then if I say 368 divided by 1,8, the answer is 204,4444, and so on. Okay, so it's degrees Celsius. The degree Celsius is 204,44. Sorry, or you can just say 204,4. Okay, but it's always safer to first write down the original answer, and then after that you can round it off. But in this case, the examiner didn't say anything about rounding off, so 204 or 204,4, 204,44, all of them will still be correct. Okay, then number 1.5, convert the measurement for milk into liters. Convert the measurement for milk into liters. So let's see. The milk, okay, the ingredient for milk is, we've got 1 cup of milk. 1 cup of milk. Okay, and we know that 1 cup is 250 milliliters. So this is actually the same as 250 milliliters of milk. 250 milliliters of milk. But the question is convert to liters. Now, if we have to convert from milliliters to liters, this is what you need to know. Milliliters to liters, what do we do? From milliliters to liters, we need to divide. We divide by 1000. And remember, if you look at this information, that conversion factor, it's not given. So it means you need to know it. The examiner knows that this is something that you should know. You should know that the conversion factor between milliliter and a liter is 1000. So in this case, because I'm converting from milliliters to liters, I must divide by 1000. So we take 250, we divide it by 1000, and then this is equals to 0.25 liters. Easy as that, 0.25 liters. So that is the answer for number 1.5. Okay, the next question is, give any 2 reasons why the grade 10 learners decided to sell muffins at the market day. Give any 2 reasons. In this case, the answer will be any relevant reason. Any relevant reason will be acceptable. So one of the reasons why they might have decided to sell the muffins is for fundraising. Okay, they wanted to raise the funds maybe for a certain function, okay, or maybe for a school excursion. So that is just my reason, okay, but that could be one of the possible reasons. You might have your own reason, but they say any 2 reasons why the grade 10 learners decided to sell the muffins. So this one will be for fundraising for the excursion, okay, or maybe they might be doing the fundraising to buy a textbook or the stationery. Okay, then the next question is activity 2. It's Zanele and Renele are driving to Pretoria one morning. Zanele departs from Randburg and picks up Renele, who stays in Midrand. The car is driven at an average speed of 100 kilometers per hour from Randburg to Midrand and then to Pretoria. The clock alongside shows the time at which Zanele left Randburg. Use the picture alongside to answer the questions that follow. Boys and girls, you will see how easy some of these questions are. And this is actually where you can score a lot of marks. Remember, I indicated at the beginning of the lesson that this is the foundation, or this is the pillar of the rest of paper 2. This is actually where you can score a lot of marks. And then this is one section of which, if you can be able to master it, you'll be able to score a lot of marks in other sections as well. Then this one is identify the type of clock displayed above. Okay, identify the type of clock displayed above. Now, in Mathlit, when we talk about the type of clock that is that could be indicated, can either be this one is analog. Okay, so Identify the type of clock that is indicated. So in this case, this is analog. So the answer for this one is analog. So the type of clock displayed above is analog. Okay, then the next question is write down the time Zanele left home in Wales. Write down the time Zanele left home in Wales. So for this one, it means we have to look at the time that is indicated on the clock. So the time that is indicated on the clock, you can see that it's 10 minutes. So this one is 10 minutes. 10 minutes past 10 minutes past 10. Okay, doesn't matter whether we indicate in the morning or so, but it's 10 minutes past 10. Sorry, everything must be in words. Sorry. Okay, the examiner almost got me. So everything must be in words. So when they say in words, everything must be in words. So we say 10 minutes past 10, or you can say 10 minutes after 10. So that is the answer for number 2.2. The next one is Zanele arrived at Renelo's place at 10:27. Determine how long it took her to get to Midrand. Okay, remember, Zanele left home at 10 minutes past 10. 10:10 and arrived at 10:27. So 10:27. So we want to know the duration. Okay, so this one is determine how long it took her to get to Midrand. So it must be the difference 10:25 minus 10:10. Oh, so 10:27. Sorry, this must be 10:27, and this must also be 10:27. So this will be 10:27 minus 10:10. Then we say 27 minus 10, we get 17. And then on the other side is 10 minus 10 is 0. So therefore, it's 17 minutes. The answer is 17 minutes. It took Zanele 17 minutes to get to Midrand. Okay, the next question is Busisiwe lives in Knysna Heights and plans a trip to Pezula Estate where she will spend the weekend with her friends. The distance between Knysna Heights and Pezula Estate is 11.2 kilometers traveled. Busisiwe travels at an average speed of 100 kilometers per hour and she drives a Polo Vivo 1.4 with a fuel consumption of 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers. So the fuel consumption in this case, it means the car needs 5.7 liters for every 100 kilometers. If you have to travel a distance of 100 kilometers, you will need 5.7 liters. So it's very reasonable with fuel consumption. Then 3.1 is calculate the approximate time in minutes that Busisiwe will take to travel from Knysna Heights to Pezula Estate. You may use the following formula. Calculate the approximate time in minutes. So now we need to calculate time. But if you look at the formula that is given there, it's for calculating speed. Remember our triangle or DSTV method, where we said if you've got speed, then it must be distance over time. So in this case, what are we supposed to calculate? We're supposed to calculate time. So it means we're going to say, therefore, time is equals to distance over speed. And then we do the substitution. What is our distance? Our distance is 11.2. Okay, we don't necessarily have to indicate the unit. We know that it's 11.2 kilometers. If the speed is in 100, then that is 100. The speed is in kilometers per hour. So once we take 11.2, we divide it by 100, that will be the time. So the time is 11.2 divided by 100, and then that is 0, 112. And then what is the unit there? The unit is hours. Okay, so it's 0,112. Remember, our distance is in kilometers, and then our speed has got an hour there. It's kilometer per hour. So it means if we've got kilometer and we've got kilometer per hour, the kilometer and kilometer will cancel out. That is why our time is in hours. So it's 0,112 hours. But the examiner specified that the answer must be in minutes. Again, it means we are not done there. What must we do? We must convert the hours to minutes. Now, this is what you need to know, or this is what you should know. How do you convert from hours to minutes? We multiply by 60. If you take 0,112, you multiply it by 60, and then we get 6. The answer is 6,72 minutes, which is about 7 minutes. So the examiner was only looking for the time in minutes. So this is about 7 minutes, 6,72 minutes, which is about 7 minutes. If the examiner was looking for the answer in seconds, we're going to say 6 minutes, and then we convert the 0,72. In other words, we're going to say 6 minutes plus 0,72 minutes. And this one, it's a fraction of a minute. And then we multiply by 60. If you take 0,72, you multiply by 60. So this was going to give us 6 minutes and 43,2 seconds. Okay, so it's about 6 minutes and 43 seconds. So, but we don't worry about this because the examiner was looking for the answer in minutes only. 6,72 minutes, or you can just round it off and say this is about 7 minutes. The next question, still on the very same information, is Busisiwe and her friends traveled an approximate distance in and around Phezula Estate of 156 kilometers with a car. Determine the total distance Busisiwe traveled during the weekend, including her trip to Phezula Estate and back. Okay. While they were at Phezula Estate, they traveled 156 kilometers. Okay, so for driving around, okay, so maybe they were going to the clubs and so on, partying and so on. So they traveled 156 kilometers while they were around. But in this case, they say determine the total distance Busisiwe traveled during the weekend, including her trip to Phezula Estate and back. But going to Phezula Estate, it was 11,2 kilometers. 11,2 kilometers, single trip, and then plus another 11,2 kilometers for return. So in total, it's 11,2 is 156 plus 11.2 plus 11.2. Or we could have said 11.2 times 2. So we get 178,4 kilometers. So they traveled a total distance of 178,4 kilometers. That is number 3.2. Okay, then number 3. It's Busisiwe claims that she will spend less than 250 Rand on petrol for her return trip, including the weekend driving to and from Phezula Estate. Busisiwe claims that she will spend less than 250 Rand on petrol for her return trip, including the weekend driving to and from Phezula Estate. Verify with the necessary calculations whether her statement is valid or not. Okay, now from the information that is given, it's the fuel consumption, because first thing we need to know the amount of liters that the car has consumed, the number of liters of fuel of which the car has consumed. Okay, we know that they traveled 178. If I check, okay, 178,4. So they traveled 178,4. 200.4 kilometers they travel. So in order for us to calculate the cost, we need to know the number of liters that the car consumed, the number of liters of fuel of which the car has consumed. So what do we do in this case? We know the following. We know that from this information, 5.7 liters was actually enough to travel 100 kilometers. But we know that they didn't travel 100 kilometers. They actually traveled more than 100 kilometers. Now we want to know if they traveled 178.4. Okay, we're going to use our cross multiplication. They traveled 174 kilometers. Now we want to know the amount of liters, the number of liters that the car has consumed. So we can still use, let's use letter N for the number of liters, or you can use X, or you can use whatever letter. We're going to use letter N for the number of liters, then we cross multiply. When we cross multiply, is N multiplied by 100, I get 100N. Then I say equals to 5.7 multiplied by 178.4. So this one I'm cross multiplying. If I take 5.7, I multiply by 178.4. So 5.7 multiplied by 178.4, I'm getting 1016.88. Okay, I don't have to worry about the other units. What I know that in this case, I'm calculating the number of liters. So from this one, I divide by 100. Okay, 5.7 multiplied by 178.4. Then I say divide by 100. Then I get the number of liters. It's 10.168. Then this is the number of liters. So the car consumed 10.1688. I'm not rounding it off because it's not the final answer. Okay, so 10.1688. Right, now in this case, from this information again, I know that 1 liter, let me write it here, 1 liter cost 24 rand and 45 cents. Okay, but the car consumed 10.1688. Now I want to know the cost. I can use letter C for cost, then I cross multiply. If I take C, I multiply by 1, I get C. So C for the cost, then I take 10.1688, I multiply by 24.45. So if I take 10.1688, I multiply by 24.45, I'm getting 249,11616. But we know that the value of money should be rounded off to 2 decimal places. So if I round it off to 2 decimal places, I get 249,112, 249 rand and 12 cents. It is very, very important not to round off up until you get to the final answer, because the more you round off before you get to the final answer, the less accurate your answer is going to be. So it's very important to keep all the decimals up until you get to the final answer. So have we answered the question in this case? Let's see. Our answer, the cost is 249 rand and 12 cents. But in this case, Bisue claims that she will spend less than 250 rand. It is just slightly less than 250 rand. What matters in this case is less. Doesn't matter if, according to you, doesn't make a very big difference, but at the end of the day, it is less. So Busiswe claims that she will spend less than 250 rand on petrol of a return trip, including the weekend during to and from Pezula. estate. Verify with the necessary calculations whether her statement is valid or not. In this case, we say her statement is valid. Okay, doesn't matter how small the difference is, but what matters in this case is there's a small difference. So her statement is valid because indeed she spent less than 250 rand. Okay, then the next question is Hein bought a fish tank at Premiums Aquatics. The fish tank with dimensions is shown in the picture alongside. Use the alongside information to answer the questions that follow. NB, 1 foot is equal to 0.3048. Remember what I said about the imperial units? The imperial units, the conversion factors will be given. So in this case, 1 foot is equal to 0.3048. Convert the radius. In this case, it is given that the radius is 2.1 feet. It must be 2.1 feet. So we are given the information 1 foot is equals to 0.3048 meters. Now we want to convert this to, then we know that this is 2.1 foot. Then we want to know it's equals to how much. Then we can just say this is the radius that we are looking for, but the radius must be in meters. So when we cross multiply our radius, it's cross multiplication, r multiplied by 1, it's r, 2.1 multiplied by, so we take our calculator, 2.1 multiplied by 0.3048. Okay, let's see, I'm getting 0.64008, and it is now in meters. 0.64008, that is our radius in meters. Okay, still on the very same question. This one is the required temperature for the fish tank is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Haynes claims that he needs to set the temperature at 22.2 degrees Celsius to be equivalent to the required temperature. Verify with the necessary calculations whether Haynes' claim is valid or not. You may use the following formula. Okay, so Haynes claims that he needs to set the temperature at 22.2 degrees Celsius. Remember, in this case, we are given two values in different units. We are given two values in different units. So in this case, we want to know if these two values are actually equal, okay? Because they are in different units. So we want to verify this. We want to check if 72 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as 22.2 degrees Celsius. If 72 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as 22 degrees Celsius, it means indeed Haynes will have to set the temperature at 22.2 degrees. Now let's do the substitution. If I do the substitution, I get the temperature there is 72, then it's minus 32 in brackets multiplied by 5/9. Then we need to simplify 72 minus 32, that is 40. Then I still say 40 multiplied by 5 divided by 9. Multiplied by 5 divided by 9. Then I get, indeed I get 22.2222. Okay, so that is the temperature in degrees Celsius. Is 22.222. Now, if it's 22.2222 on your calculator, is it the same as 22.2? Yes, these are the same because it means this one has been rounded off. Now, let's see. Verify with the necessary calculation whether Haynes' claim is valid or not. Haynes' claim is valid because indeed 72 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as 22.2 degrees Celsius. So you must indicate this. There's a mark for this one. Haynes' claim is valid. After doing the calculations, you must indicate that indeed Haynes' claim is valid. So in this case, you just need to confirm the statement. Right. Then the next question is Hein has 7 fish in his Hein has 7 fish in his fish tank. 7 fish in his fish tank. 3 yellow, 1 blue, 2 red, and 1 silver. Okay, Hein has 7 fish in his fish tank. 3 yellow, 1 blue, 2 red, and 1 silver. Determine the probability. Probability as a percentage of selecting a silver fish from the fish tank. Now, in order to calculate or to determine the probability, it means we must have a fraction. We must have the number of silver fish. How many silver fish are there? And then we've got only one. So it's 1 over the total number of fish. The total number of fish is 7. So we've got 1 over 7. This is a fraction. If the examiner had to say determine the probability as a fraction, we will leave it like this. If the examiner had to say determine the probability as a decimal fraction, we'll leave it as, or we're going to say 1 divided by 7. Then we get the answer. But in this case, they say as a percentage, then what we do, we take 1 over 7, we multiply by 100%. Then you say 1 divided by 7, they multiply by 100. Then I get 14,2857 and so on and so on. But this is a percentage. If you want to round it off, you can just round it off and say it's 14,3%, or you can say 14,29%. Okay, but the examiner doesn't say anything about rounding. It is safer to write the original answer exactly as is, and then from there you can round it off to any number of decimal places. So this is number 4.3. Okay, then the next question is activity 5. It's Uyatanda Home Industry specializes in baking and selling cakes of all types. The recipe of a cake is shown alongside. Study the recipe and answer the questions that follow. And then you have to study, and then after studying, you also have to take note of this. Sorry. An order was received for 90 people who will be attending an event. Each person must get 1 slice of cake. 12 slices can be cut from 1 cake. 1 cake weighs 900 grams. The amount of energy in 100 grams of cake is 400 calories. Write down the mass of 1 cake in kilograms. Okay, this is the first question. Write down the mass of 1 cake in kilogram. Are we given that information? Is the information in the table? No, the information is actually under note, where they say 1 cake weighs 900 grams. So it means that 900 grams, we need to convert it to kilograms. Okay. Conversion factor between a kilogram and a gram, it's 1000. What do you do with the 1000? If you want to convert from kilogram to grams, you multiply by 1000. But if you want to convert from grams to kilograms, you divide by 1000. So this one we divide by 1000, and then I get 0.9 kilogram. Or you can still use the cross multiplication method, where we say 1 kilogram is equals to 1000 grams. Okay, and then this one we say, we know that this is 900 grams. Okay, but we don't know the mass, so we can say m for the mass, then we cross multiply. If I cross multiply, I get 1000 m equals to 1 times 900, I get 900. Then I divide by 1000. I divide by 1000, then I will still get 0.9. Whatever method, okay? I know that most of you will prefer the cross multiplication, but if you can be able to do it by means of inspection, and then you know that you need to divide, you can just divide right away. But the answer for 5.1 is 0.9 kilograms. Okay, then for 5.2, it's determine the mass of one slice of cake in grams. Okay, determine the mass of one slice of cake in grams. Okay, the whole cake weighs 900 grams, so it's 900 grams, you know it. But how many slices are there in each cake? There are 12 slices, so I just take this, I divide it by 12, so it's 900 divided by 12 is 75 grams. The information is given there because they say determine the mass of one slice of cake in grams. Then I know that the whole cake is 900 grams, but I can get 12 slices. So it means I take 900, I divide it by 12, I get 75 grams. That is how easy these questions are, boys and girls. Okay, then for number 5.3 is calculate the number of calories in one slice of cake. Okay, calculate the number of calories in one slice of cake. Now, from the previous question, we know that in this case, 100 gram will give you 400 calories. Isn't it? That information is given. Okay, 100 grams. But in one slice, from the previous question, we calculated that one slice is 75 grams. So one slice is 75 grams. So if we want to calculate the number of calories there, then we can say cross multiplication. What about 75 grams? 75 grams will give us how many calories? So we can say the number of calories. We can still use letter N or any other letter. Then we cross multiply. N multiplied by 100, I get 100N equals to 75 multiplied by 400. I multiply by 400. Then I get 30,000. So it's 30,000. Okay, then I divide by 100. I divide by 100. Then 30,000 divided by 100. I get 300. So in this case, N is equals to 300 calories. So the number of calories in one slice is 300. The number of calories in one slice is 300. Still on the very same question, it's convert the total time in minutes to hours. So the total time, is it indicated in the table? Yes. If I check here, I've got preparation time, I've got baking time, I've got total time, which is 75 minutes. So 75 minutes is the total time. So now they want to check if you can convert the minutes to hours. How do you convert from minutes to hours? We divide by 60. So 75 divided by 60, I get 1,25. So I take this, I divide it by 60, then the moment I divide it by 60, it becomes hours, and then it's 75 divided by 60, I get 1,25 hours. So 75 minutes is about 1 hour and a quarter. I mean, it's about, yes, 1 hour and a quarter. Okay, so it's 1,25 hours. That is the answer for number 5.4. Okay, so the number 5.5 is determine the number of cakes that should be baked for the number of guests at the event. Okay, determine the number of cakes that should be baked for the number of guests. Right, we've got 90 people that will be coming. Okay, 90 people that will be coming. And then remember, from this 90, we say one cake will give us 12. One cake will give us 12 slices. Okay, now, but we've got 90 people who are coming. So we want to know how many 12 slices must be in 90. So in this case, is how many 12 slices must be in 90. So one cake, we take 90, we divide it by 12. So the number of cake, it's 90 divided by 12. So if I take 90, I divide it by 12, I get 7,5. Okay, so it means, so this one is determine the number of cake that should be baked for the number of guests at the event. So it must be 90 divided by 12. So that will be about 7,5 cakes, which will be about eight cakes. So it's 8 cakes that must be baked, and from that 8 cakes, that will be enough for 90 people. Okay, it will actually be more than enough. So that is the answer for number 5.5. Then for number 5.6 is how many cups of flour is required if 8 cakes must be baked? How many cups of flour is required if 8 cakes must be baked? Okay. So for this one, it's how many cups of flour? How many cups of flour do we have here? We've got 3 over 4. Okay, so it's 3 over 4 cups of flour. No, wait a minute. Yeah, 3 over 4. 3 over 4 of flour. Okay, but remember the information that is indicated here, it's only for one cake. So I take 3 over 4, I multiply by 8. So this one, I say 8 times, then it's 8 multiplied by 3 divided by 4, then I get 6. So it must be 6 cups of flour. Okay. Okay, the ingredients that are indicated in the table, the ingredients are enough for only one cake. Okay, so in order to, if I want to increase this, if I want to make 2 cakes, so it means every ingredient must be multiplied by 2. If I want to bake 3 cakes, every ingredient must be multiplied by 3. So in this case, we need to bake, they say if 8 cakes must be baked, so we take every ingredient we multiply by 8. But in this case, we only focus on cups of flour. We need 3/4 cups of flour, but for one cake. But for 8 of them, we multiply by 8, which is 6. Okay, then again, I think we did a couple of this type of question, the temperatures. We just do the substitution. Degrees Celsius is equals to 320 minus 32 and divided by 1,8. The question there is calculate the temperature of 320 degrees Fahrenheit in degrees Celsius. The formula is indeed for calculating the temperature in degrees Celsius. Then we just do the substitution. 320 minus 32, and then it's 288. So it's 288 divided by 1.8. Divide by 1.8, then I get exactly 160. So it's 160 degrees. So it's 160 degrees. Okay, then that was actually the last question. That is our last question for today. That was activity number 5. It is our last question. Then I know that the presentation will be shared with your educators at school level, and then as soon as you receive the presentation or the document, you're going to get the slides for homework. Now homework, it's indicated, you'll have to complete it. Like in this case is Mr. Soetmelk's wife bakes homemade all-bran rusk for her family. The recipe that she uses is shown alongside. Study the recipe and answer the questions that follow. You'll see that the questions are actually similar to some of the questions that we have already done. So this one is just homework. How many grams of all bran wheat flakes are needed for this recipe? So you just have to look for the answer there. Study the clock alongside and answer the questions that follow. The clock is given there. They say convert 55 minutes to hours and write down the time displayed on the watch. We have done a similar question as well. So that will be those few questions with regard to homework. And then just a reflection on today's lesson. We did the conversion between metric units of length or distance. That is what we did. We did the conversion between metric units of mass or weight. We did the conversion between metric units of capacity, milliliters, liters, and kiloliters. If you've been listening very well, you'll remember that we also did somewhere the conversion of metric units to imperial units. And we also did somewhere conversion between imperial units and metric units of length or distance. Conversion of temperature, we did a couple of them as well. So this is just a summary of everything that we have done since the beginning of this lesson. Okay, now with regard to the next lesson, please remember to stay tuned for the next lesson. And remember, we have changed the time slots. Our next lesson will be on the 16th of April 2025. That is next week, Wednesday. The time is from 14:30 until 1600. And then now the focus is going to be on perimeter and area. Very, very important. Please make sure that you tune in next week's lesson on the 16th of April, 14:30 until 1600. And then the focus will be on perimeter and area. Thank you very much for watching this lesson. I hope you have enjoyed every minute of the lesson. Remember, these are the basics. This was the foundation and the pillar of paper 2, which is measurement and maps and plans. Thank you very much for watching this lesson. I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.